Hello, I'm Gavin Ramshorn. Normally, I bring you all the latest sports news and interviews. I report on triumphs and disappointments of top-level competition, but these are not normal times. Humanity has changed, and that means sport has changed too. In this special programme, we reflect on how the coronavirus pandemic has affected athletes all over the world. We hear their fears on the present and their hopes for the future, where we can once again report on the joys of competitive sport. We'll also hear from athletes helping their communities in tough times. We'll hear how their training is going, some are in lockdown, and how they feel about the cancellation of famous global sporting events and what that means for their mindset and mental health. This is sport in the time of coronavirus. Back on the 22nd of January, the International Olympic Committee cancelled the Olympic boxing qualifiers in Wuhan, the Chinese city where the coronavirus outbreak began. Little did we know then it would be the first of many international sporting events to be cancelled or postponed in 2020.
The coronavirus continues to cause havoc with the sporting calendar.
Another global sporting event has been affected by the coronavirus outbreak.
Manchester City's Premier League match, due to be played at home to Arsenal later, has been postponed.
4 Serie A games were postponed on Sunday.
The latest sporting event to be affected by the coronavirus, rugby's Six Nations.
In the weeks that followed, the NBA was suspended, golf's Masters was postponed, and on the 24th of March, the huge decision to postpone the Tokyo Olympics and Paralympics until 2021 was taken.
I cried because it's hard to reset a calendar and the clock like that when you've been preparing your whole life to be ready at this certain time. So to have that set back, it was just kind of crushing. But obviously with everything going on, there are bigger problems than the Olympics being postponed. But for us as athletes, that is hard to get our mind wrapped around.
It's going to be huge, especially once we come out of this, once everything's back on the ground rolling. I think Japan's going to do a terrific job with it. I've never doubted that. Now they have a whole nother year to plan. So they're going to be dangerous with how good this setup's going to be. And it's going to be massive. I think the world will need that unity again.
We obviously have a bigger priority in the health of the whole globe. You know, we don't know how this virus will progress. We don't know when a vaccine will be available, how things will work with each different nation and the curve of the virus as it's moving through this first wave. So until we have a vaccine, we just don't know. But we're as sure as we can ever be about anything that the Games will go ahead next year. And it was absolutely the right decision to make. And it was one that I was expecting.
For the first time since the Second World War, the All-England Tennis Championships at Wimbledon were cancelled. A huge fortnight of sport wiped from the British sporting summer.
Practically speaking, there was no way to do it and be safe and guarantee that nobody will get sick from playing even against each other. So it's too many unknowns at the moment. And what we do know is pretty scary.
It's definitely the right decision and adheres to all the guidelines, and it's about keeping people safe. So it's not surprising, but, you know, there's also a part of me that, you know, hopes to play, wishes to play, looks forward to play. So in that side, you know, it's saddening and it's a bit disappointing.
In a constantly changing environment, there is little certainty about when postponed events will resurface. Those at the sharp end of sport realise the bigger picture at play here.
I think whatever decisions are made at the moment, I think everybody respects them. I think it's uncharted times and unprecedented times, and whatever the decisions that the boards make, I think are very difficult, and I think you can't do anything but respect them and yeah, move on and stay safe.
Of course, there's worse things than not being able to watch sport with all the health problems that are happening and people suffering around the world because of this virus. Me being a huge Formula 1 fan, it's such a pity for me because I would love to be watching the races, obviously, now like everybody else around the world.
Look, everybody's in the same boat. There are so many millions and millions of people lost their jobs, lost their income. Tennis is a luxury.
This is going to be a team effort from all of us as South African. I think the whole world in general. This is the time, I think, for some of us is to stay at home and not leave our houses. You know, we've got a complete lockdown. Everybody has a role to play.
So what do some of the biggest names in sport get up to when they're on lockdown? Well, naturally, they want to keep fit and use the opportunity with the free time to improve their skills.
pero me ha abandonado. Para poder decir que no.
Training for elite athletes in a lockdown situation is proving a challenge, especially for some athletes who don't know when their sport will be able to resume. Some are better placed than others. We've spoken to several athletes about how they're coping with the new normal.
Every day still exercising, I'd say for 3 hours a day. It's funny because I think I'm doing more now than when I'm actually at training. When I'm at training, it's, you know, an hour and a half in the morning, I eat my lunch and I'm off home, whereas now I'm trying to do a little bit of football, but, you know, the garden's not really big enough. It's not the same as a big football pitch. So then I have to go on the bike to get some fitness, but then I have to go lift some weights to get a bit of strength as well. So I'm kind of going from one form of exercise to the other, so it's taken a lot longer than it normally does.
As a road cyclist, someone who's used to being up and down a black line, I'm probably quite well prepared for being stuck in a garage staring at a brick wall, and we can still get out on our bikes, which is nice. I'm probably more of a lone trainer as well. I don't tend to train with other people, so it's not so bad. It's not been, I certainly haven't been struggling like I know some people are really struggling with it.
If it were up to me, I would have wanted to stick to what my normal routine has been, but that's not the case. So where do we go from here and figuring out how to get better? I mean, that's not something that has to just be completely gone or obliterated because my normal routine isn't the same as what it once was. You know, I have a new routine now. My workout is not the same. I mean, I still have very limited pool time. I can still actually do my normal lift routine. My strength coach has weights in his garage, but you know, it's a new routine for everybody.
Currently in Sydney, Australia, in a 2-week quarantine in government-run accommodation. We brought out our own bike trainer that you basically put your road bike onto and you can ride indoors. And we've actually brought quite a lot of gym equipment with us. So we've brought a Swiss ball, which we've inflated when we've got here, and a gym mat, and we've got like resistance bands, and we've tied them to the clothes rail, and we're like doing some swimming sort of stuff with that.
Hungary's Katinka Hosszú is one of thousands of athletes gearing up for the start of 2020 with the Summer Tokyo Olympic Games. The triple gold medalist from Rio 2016 was hoping for more medal success in the pool, but she told us the postponement could mean an even bigger celebration of sport in 2021.
Pretty strange time we are living in. I am in Budapest. I'm home, and thankfully as for my family and myself, we are healthy and safe. But I know it's a crazy time for the world right now.
Obviously, this year was going to be huge for you and all the best sportswomen and men around the world with the Tokyo Games, and obviously there was going to be the European Championships in Budapest as well. So just talk us through how much things have changed in the last few months and how much you've had to adapt.
It's been pretty crazy and pretty surreal what's happening. Obviously, when the virus started around January, or when we started hearing news about it, I don't think we thought that it will affect us so much. And Olympics being cancelled, and obviously Europeans have been cancelled and pushed to next year. The really stressful times were when we didn't know what is going to happen with the Olympics. And now that we have questions answered, I think it's obviously much easier to stay home and know what's going to happen for next year. I had to think through my preparation, and I had to think about what I should do in terms of getting ready for the Olympics. Now it's going to be 2021, and now I have a really long period of time where I will not be racing.
The Olympics being delayed by a year, obviously it's not ideal, but do you think that this can be, even more of a celebration in a year's time, in that the world will have come through so much? I mean, how big do you think the Tokyo Games will be next year now?
We kind of forget how much we are lucky to have sport, how lucky we are that we can swim, and there's something great that we can do. And now that it's taken away for a period of time, I think we are going to appreciate it even a lot more, just to get in the pool and be able to train. So I think for 2021, I think there will be a lot of great results from the fact that now we appreciate that it's happening, and we appreciate that we can train and prepare, and this time is definitely great to reflect.
It's been quite an overwhelming few weeks to see how people have been helping in their communities. The smallest of gestures are having the biggest of differences for people who are disadvantaged or vulnerable. Sportsmen and women are playing their part too. We've been lucky enough to catch up with some of them to hear how their dedication is being received.
It's quite tough this moment. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this in South Africa. Our young foundation hasn't even launched yet, and we had to jump on and help as much as we could. So we're targeting the frontline people, which is obviously the medical team that we trying to help as much as we can. Got some sanitizer for the public hospital. We've supplied 3 public hospitals at the moment, and there are a lot of other NGOs who are helping as much as they could. I think food is a big problem at the moment in South Africa. That's why most of the people, they have to leave their house to look for something to eat. So we are pushing hard on fighting the hunger and making sure people get meals. There's a lot of kids who go to school just to get one meal, so we want to try and provide for that and make sure that we all help as much as we can.
So I'll be helping out within the medical team on a general medicine ward. I only was on the phone to them Wednesday last week begging for a job. So they were like, yeah, we have one for you, come on up. If anyone's ever been on a rowing machine, it's not very stimulating. Out in the water is beautiful. You've got lovely scenery and you get to push your body, and you see yourself going fast past the hedges, but inside nothing moves, just you, and it's the same movement over and over for 2,000-3,000 times each session, and it's a very welcome change for the next few months, but it'll be very challenging to continue a full training program alongside that. Medicine's always been the number one, and to be honest, I've missed that element of my life over the last few months.
I landed back from Australia about 10 days ago now. Something that I thought about a couple of days before I actually found out that our league was being suspended, and I felt that I wanted to be A, closer to my family, but B, working and helping in any way that I could here with the NHS. So when our league was postponed, to me, it was a really easy decision. From Monday, I started back at the hospital that I was working in before I left for Australia. It is overwhelming because it's so new, I think. And for me, I was nervous going back into it all, just not knowing what to expect. It's not something that I've read in a medical textbook, and it's not something that I've encountered before. And it's also new, and there's so much hype and media around it all that it's difficult to put that all to one side and just go to work.
I think as a captain of my football club, Bournemouth, obviously, but I can't sit here and take a whole lot of credit for it. It was certainly Jordan who came up with the initiative, the idea, and then he pitched it to the rest of the captains in the Premier League. And it's one thing, one football club donating somewhere, whether that's local or to the NHS, which is great, but I think it shows so much support within the football community, and not just in the Premier League as well, just to show that we are united as one, really, despite what's going on in the Football League, rivalries aside, everything like that, because at the moment we don't know when that will get back up and running. In the meantime, this is a great chance, a great opportunity for the players to show how much the NHS means to us, all the charities, local charities, hospices, everything that they're doing at the moment to fight this pandemic, this coronavirus.
So my wife Louise, her auntie, is the head of paediatrics at the Royal Brompton Hospital. As the COVID outbreak started, we were just speaking to her and been in touch with her about what people could do to help the hospital, and we just felt like we needed to help. Thought about we could auction my World Cup shirt, and that would be another way we could raise money for the hospital. For £62,000, an ECMO machine, which will help patients who are going to be the most critically ill, will be able to purchase. So with the shirt up at 66,000, which is beyond my wildest dreams, it's going to be able to purchase one of those machines. Incredibly special shirt to me. It will add even more meaning to the World Cup final and to that shirt.
It's obviously important for athletes to keep fit at this uncertain time, and some are finding more bizarre ways to keep entertained during a period of lockdown. All I would say is don't try some of these at home.
Welcome to my flat. If you would like to step into my gymnasium, as you can see, it is virtually a small empty room.
On the BMX, I can do like some tricks on the flat ground without ramps in my car park. And there's also this funny thing you can do where you lie on your back and you can replicate some of the tricks. Quite a change to be stuck indoors. I'm not used to being indoors.
Yeah, it's been embarrassing actually after us actually showing everyone what we did have in the garage. We should have cleaned it before, but we've took it all out. We've just tried to get as much space as we can so we can put down as many mats as we can. If it's a few months, we'll stay here, but hopefully it's not too long.
That was just something fun I saw and I decided to do. And it was a lot harder than I thought, and I was wearing like really, really tight pants, but it was actually a hit, so I'm happy like everybody enjoyed it. It took a couple times, but I feel like we're all at home and we're all doing this together, so anything that can bring us all together as a community and around the world is kind of nice. I feel like the biggest challenge for me about being isolated is like being stuck at home with my own thoughts all day, because before I would be in the gym, I would be training and have that distraction, but just being here, it's just like your thoughts are so loud and you're trying to answer a lot of the unknown questions. What will life be like after this? When will we get back to the gym? How will the Olympics play out with this pandemic? There's a lot of unanswered questions that us as athletes and people around the world need to know, but it's going to take some time before we all get back to like normal life.
This summer would have been, I think it's fair to say, your swan song in the sport. You would be retiring after that. But now you've got to do it for a whole 15 months again. That must be a big thing to process, really. For you personally, what will be the biggest challenge for you over the next 15 months?
Staying engaged mentally, because in 3 months I was ready to clock out and be done. And I had that set for 4 years. So how do you go from 4 years to one day being told, hey, sorry, another year? It's hard to reset that clock. But all of us as athletes have to do it. So we're not alone.
What is your motivation now that you've sort of accepted that there's another 15 months?
I think my motivation is proving to myself that I can go another year, I can do it again, and I can hopefully be better than I was in Rio. I was a rookie then, I'm a veteran, so I know exactly what to expect. So in a way, your second time is almost scarier because you have a lot of expectations to try to uphold.
The Tour de France was supposed to start on the 27th of June, but given the ban on public events in France, that's now been postponed. The new date for Le Tour, which is one of the biggest events in the world for sport, is now the 29th of August. We caught up with the 2018 champion Geraint Thomas, and he told us how he's preparing for the race from home, as well as raising money for Britain's National Health Service charities.
So we're in my garage in Cardiff on a turbo trainer. I come up with the idea maybe more or less 10 days, 2 weeks ago now. I wanted to do something myself, and I thought raising a bit of money for the NHS would be a good way to do it. And came up with the idea of mirroring an NHS worker's shift pattern. It's basically doing 3 back-to-back 12-hour shifts on the turbo here in my garage in Cardiff. And I'm not going to lie, when I woke up at 5:30 this morning, I was thinking, what have I got myself into here? It's starting to ache, because you're not really sort of moving a lot, you're just stuck in this one position. I think tomorrow and then the day after are going to be worse, obviously, but it's just great to see the donations coming in, and it's all going to a very worthy cause, which keeps the morale high. From my point of view, and a lot of riders I've spoken to, I think the main thing is if the Tour can go ahead, that's sort of like the pinnacle of the sport, and that's why sponsors come into the sport. It's because of that race. So it's just been frustrating having no idea when we're going to be racing next, but as we all know, there's a lot bigger things that need to be sorted out first. I've heard so many stories about NHS workers. It's not just them going into hospital putting their own health at risk, but also they're having to self-isolate themselves, so they're going home to an empty house. Their loved ones, their children, their partners are having to move out. It's a massive commitment by them, and it really struck a chord with me. And it's kind of like, well, we have such a privileged life, really, to be able to just get paid to compete in sport. It's only going to, make a small difference, but wanted to try to do something at least. Hello. Oh, it's been a drag. I didn't realise 12 hours was quite so long. You know, we raised an incredible amount of money, so almost 300,000. So I'm glad it's almost over though, because the last 2 hours I've hardly been able to sit on the saddle. All the money that's just been coming in has just sort of kept me going, and the fact I've got a live feed looking at me so everyone can see if I stop. So I can't really stop. Amazing to see the amount of support, you know, people coming and riding with me, and all the donations. It's obviously shows how much the NHS and what everyone working there, what they're doing, everyone getting behind is amazing. I think me myself, you know, I've really missed watching like rugby and football games, and once we get back training on the road like normal, yeah, it'll be a great feeling. Just a huge thanks for everyone that's joined me and everyone that's donated, but I think obviously the biggest thanks goes to everyone working for the NHS and you know, their commitment and everything they're doing. Yeah, unbelievable.
Geraint Thomas there on his hopes for a return to cycling. And sport will return soon at a date unspecified. The drama, the tears and the cheers will all be back. But sport, just like society, could be very different in the years ahead, and we wish for better times. From me, Gavin Ramjohn, it's goodbye for now.